Bueno, buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Let's test the sound. Audio testing now first. I want to thank Cyber for having celebrated CyberCamp over here, and my deepest thanks to all the participants, the staff, employees, the families coming together, Zakaton, CTF, our companies. It's very gratifying and rewarding for me to participate in these events taking place in Spain.
Vale. A ver. A ver, un momento.
Espera, el audio no lo sabe.
Espera, no, todavía no está. Ahora
¿Te llega, Bernie?
no. Cojo yo otra. Hola. El sonido.
Un segundín.
Sí, debe estar por el HDMI.
Exactamente.
Output. Eso es. Dale. Póngale aquí. Sí.
Ok. Gracias.
¿Está bien? Vale. Bueno, pues lo que vamos a intentar y un poco el objetivo.
So I aim at presenting you the fact that we should be aware of the many risks we are currently suffering and getting through for being working in cybersecurity. After the horrible attacks in Paris, the world is reshaping, the economic and strategic model is changing, the confidence among countries is reshaping. We are living through a changing world. Cybersecurity comes into the big scenario. People dealing with cybersecurity are a big part of the system. That's why sometimes we neglect certain aspects which are fundamental, not only for us but also for society as a whole, because society ends up being dependent on technology. 95% technology makes our lives secure, and we need a secure and safer technology to avoid attacks against governments and citizens. Cybersecurity guys are a big part to protect cybersecurity and society as a whole. I'd like to comment on the fact that we are on an OPSEC, operational security. We have to be careful about how we deal with security information, how we do the cybersecurity research, what kind of tools we use. If we are working on corporate or business or governmental security, we deal with law enforcement group to protect cybersecurity or other entities. We have to be careful because sometimes we can be the target of threats and attacks from adversaries that in principle they seem that they don't exist, but they exist. Do you remember this picture? Oh, we all guys, we remember we had moved from being in the hackers and cyber threat world. This movie turned on his 20th anniversary. So it doesn't has nothing to do with the current society. We are having so many political threats look a lot like what we can see now on screen. So many nations, very well nations prepares to with a lot of budget to attack and offensive attitudes against targets in between. Sometimes we feel like being wearing a silver hat on the head. We wanted to get into a house with no magnetic field or technology. Some people want to seclude their thoughts from this technology by seeing the magnitude and problems that cybersecurity issue triggers. Some people panic about. So we need operational security in the brain. We try to avoid that potential adversaries can obtain or get our information or interfere our operations, sabotage our investigations and researches to get into the back door of our house or software you're developing in the client server. So we need to be very careful about this. As XKCD, we human beings are the very first vulnerability. We are the weakest chain. It's easiest to torture us, to hit us with a stick, rather than breaking the levels of defense that citizens and cybersecurity companies have. We human beings are the big target. So that's why operational security is a big issue. Some weeks ago, on this newspaper, on HR, we saw this article saying that ISIS, after the Paris attacks, ISIS had a manual about how to recommend their participants how to use new technology. It was not a operational security ISIS-based manual. It was intended for Gaza-based journalists. The necessities from journalists in Gaza to send over information or being spied on. I'm saying Gaza or Bahrain, could be, or Morocco, or other countries where there may be other problems for journalists. In reality, we see this, the needs are the very same. As to operational security or somebody from the ISIS, the Islamic Army. One example is the one we can see on this startup L. Jackson. He's on Twitter, but we don't know who he is. He used satires. Someday, well, one person said, I'm going to unmax this person with so many anonymous accounts on Twitter. Nobody wants who is behind. I'm going to try to unmax who is Startup L. Jackson. I will recommend another thief in security. Who is behind? What happens here? One person said, I'm going to try to discover who is the person behind this Twitter account. How did they do it? By mistakes and failures the original owner of the account committed. L. Jackson published the very first snapshot on the left with a screenshot, Laser, which is a social networking application doing hacking. Nazzle. So the people who is behind, people who are behind. Okay, Twitter has the very same image that L. Jackson uploaded after conducting a lot of research and taking out a lot of followers, and by reducing the size of user, he found there was a user with the very same script shop covered, so he was able to discover L. Jackson identity. I know who you are. In this very case, with image processing, he discovered who he was. In this very case, out of a various operational mistake, L. Jackson, this Twitter, was uncovered. He was a satirist. He published a screenshot, and by making this mistake, he was discovered. So operational security, from the very first times of the war, it's important when you are leaving behind secret strategic documentation, confidential information. The First and Second World War, there were so many posts describing a soldier, a marine, when he was drunk in a bar and commanded what he was going to do next week. I'm gonna go on board, and next week he was revealing information to the enemies that could be infiltrated on that bar, leaking out information out of the bar conversation. Before, a long time ago, we could speak in a bar, but now you can tweet things that you should have done it. So interesting things for somebody who is on the other side and can target you. interesting thing, descriptive thing. These posts are very interesting. Vintage posting accusing the soldiers' women of speaking too much. This dates back to the 30s and 40s. These loose lips might sink ships. Loose lips might sink ships. So any messages you are telling your friends on a bar, on the streets can be used by your adversary. We're talking about words. There is so much awareness, and this we need to recover awareness in the cybersecurity world. This exemplifies Barack Obama's portable secrecy 10 assembly requirement. Barack Obama hires a special tent generating noise around, so nobody wants to see and won't be able to see what Barack Obama is doing inside this room. They're generating this campaign word 10 where he can discuss with this muffled noise and surrounding things. So how can this affect me? In the brain, we do use things confidentially. Many people publishing exploits tools us to jump over cybersecurity measures. How can we deceive or doing jailbreak? That in the hands of the attacker or in the hands of somebody that wants to do the malicious things, we take care of government security by helping governments as to combating threats, fortify themselves. We use journalists, or we collaborate with journalists who are in certain countries doing research and showing the reality of their countries. We collaborate with the law informants group. There is a closeness between the police officers, autonomous region policies, civil guards. Law informants groups are collaborating themselves, and we may be in enemy territory. We may go to a country where it's very likely that we can be spied on because we are doing sensitive information work. The countries with malware, where many people want to know my testing conducted in an enemy country. We have an agreement with Microsoft publishing vulnerabilities about Windows 10. Simply speaking, at personal level, for the sake of our privacy, intimacy, our pictures, we don't want them to have them. This is based upon the fact of how to establish our strategy and taking care of our operational security. We need the threat modeling. These points on screen, what we want to protect assets against versus whom we want to protect ourselves. Who is our adversary? What is the likelihood of having bad situation, of getting our information stolen, our strategic exploits, and how much effort do I have to devote to protect it? Depending on the effort I want to devote, I can apply some measures or other. Generalistically speaking, for us to say it, it's clear that depending who my attacker or adversary is, we need to conduct several different plans. Perhaps the enemy is an embassy. This is different from somebody who is publishing our pictures eating. Who is the adversary? Who is targeting me? I need specific measures. First, adversary can be top nations with a big budget, a lot of people. They can buy some exploits. I'm going after you. USA, Israel, China, Russia. If these big nations are after you, you are lost. Sometimes the level of power of the nation depends on their capacity of acting. Sometimes other adversaries have a least budget than other nations, but his modus operandi may be different. Lone wolves, criminal attackers, terrorist groups, malicious employees, and curious people, or regarding the ransomware, they can and malware can take all data from our machine. If you are the target of a nation state, you are going to have a bad time. Even if you don't have a computer, you're lost. If you are a target, big nations can take all the information from us. Espionage and attacks are addictive, totally. We saw it with the case of Snowden. The more information you extracted, the more you got and wanted. So he didn't want to get as much information as possible. Because in the very end, information is power, is domination. Who owns the information is king. So information is gold. As you can see, it's easier to attack than defend. Defend ourselves is difficult. If you leave a small hole, somebody can sneak into that hole versus against us. Besides, we are living through a crisis of confidence when it comes to hardware. We may be protected at the software level, but at hardware level, are we really protected? Our hardware is secure and safe on our computer. Our BIOS or Wi-Fi is not infected. How can we know this? Does our hard disk have a backdoor? We really don't know. The hardware is very untrustworthy. So they took pictures of implant houses from the router through localization, installing a backdoor and sending back to the client. So as of today, the confidence has lost. Good examples we can see on the screen from Edward Snowden. Snowden says to us that we are targets. We are hands systems administrators. For instance, a diplomat in a nation or a CEO in a company. Why am I going to attack him? It's simpler to attack the IP of this, or the ICP of this diplomat. Easier to take out, to sneak into their communication and steal them. How can I do so? Let's go through the system and networks administrator, which manage the passwords, and they can access all the infrastructures. Who can I target? This administrator. You can read through this document. You can know who is connected to the routers administrations. Once the IP is connected, they look for the Gmail, Facebook. From these IPs, what users they are connected to, so they get the users from the administrators of the network, and they are using mapping of network, and by unwinding the thread, they can get compromising information with an IP. We know this thanks to one of the biggest famous person over the last years, making the whole world tumbling, and our security system is tumbling because of Edward Snowden. And we discovered that magical tools were not this magical tool. For instance, the NSA is not made of magic. Commercial, open source, they're very similar to open source and commercial tools. The NSA tools, have some exploits and different, but NSA is very dangerous. So in the very end, it's metadata, communications metadata fields in IC reach. We discovered that all information from calls in the United States was captured, routed through the states. It looked like, nothing happens. It's only the duration of our conversation, who is the caller, who is the receiver, the tower, or the sales information, not much information. So as we can see, this information seems not to be important, but it's super relevant. This is information taken from Snowden's document. There is a very interesting case from a man from Milan, Italy, in 2004. He was hijacked when he was walking throughout the street. He was supposed to radicalize people to make them members of Al-Qaeda. So he was hijacked on a lorry and a truck and moved to Egypt to be interrogated. His wife reported the hijack. Who hijacked my husband? Because it's strange that this happens on an Italian soil. At this moment in time, in that area, what mobile phones were working around when they got this close by phones working on the Milan, Italy area, they discovered 18 people, holders on that area at that very moment. They got information of the close-by mobiles. When they got information, they related this phone to each other, which had been signed up very recently, 3 months ago, and they were released and deregistered 1 week ago, 1 week after. So they check out the nearby hotels where the phone holders and owner was staying, and what restaurants they have dinners. So this was a CIA operation on Italian soil in an unauthorized way. So the CIA hijacked these people on Italian soil. So the CIA agents dating back to 2004 did as follows. The CIA agent, to avoid their mobile phone being intercepted by the cells, was put into Doritos chips packages, which are in the States. They have protecting material, the radio transmission signal, but the CIA agents thought that by putting the phone into the Doritos chips box, this was avoiding being captured, but no. In fact, they could take out all the information, extracting the mapping. There was a diplomatic conflict between the States and Italy and Egypt. There are also many interesting operational mistakes as how this can be relevant. For instance, exclusive CIA spy squad fear execution in Middle East. People discover because they made operational mistakes. For instance, Beirut, Lebanon, CIA agents were detected by Hezbollah because they used mobile phones that were not mobile. They were steady landline phones starting up and Mondays from 10 p.m. through 5 p.m. So following upon and tracking the Lebanon phone communication detected anomalies and defaults in Lebanon. Or, for instance, CIA agents were found in various places. Frequent flyer miles exposed CIA operation. The man of woman were pretending to be American business executives on international assignments. So instead of using the name on the flight, they use their own personal name to add on miles to get extra vouchers. Silly mistakes. Schneider on security. Bin Laden maintained computer security with an air gap. Bin Laden was supposed not to have a computer connected on the internet, so Bin Laden was supposed to use a computer sending Gmails recorded on a disc, and this person was to a CyberCafe to send the email from a CyberCafe. Bin Laden was supposed to not have ever no internet connection. For instance, United Kingdom Police Chief Bob Quick steps down over terror blunder. There was a high commissioner in counterattack terrorists in the United Kingdom. On the sheet, he got the name of all the people to be detained. So the photographers took a picture of this list of to be arrested people because he neglected the protection of the information. There are so many examples of USB bulletins with information. Secret terror flies left on train. So this impacts our security. Opposite of OPSEC, Russian soldier post selfies from inside Ukraine. Selfies were geolocated in Ukraine. Big mistakes. People don't care about it. John McAfee, very famous case. He was looking by the police. He tweeted out a picture where we knew where McAfee was, Belize. Interesting case. Oh, while its aircraft can be tracked online, how Boko Haram keeps its secrets secret. Very interesting case. Unfortunately, Boko Haram takes a lot of care about using new technologies. They don't use mobile phones. They don't use. They hardly use internet because they know that they can be tracked down on the internet. So Boko Haram knows how to protect themselves. In fact, this article published some while ago compares the operational manual from HCQ, which is part of the British intelligence, against versus jihadist manuals back at that time. We can compare what was published by ISIS. Very similarly, the intelligence services in certain countries take the very same precautions as many adversaries do. Terrorist groups, organized crime, gangsters, to avoid being discovered or unmasked regarding their criminal facts. There is a very interesting book, From Pablo to Osama, Trafficking and Terrorist Networks, Government, Bureaucracies and Competitive Adaptation. The narco traffic war in Colombia in the 80s is compared with Al-Qaeda group in the 9/11. There's underlying the similarities between the transfer of information. If a cell is captured, we should not be. We learn from the others' mistakes, or again the DEA, the American Drug Association Agency, or the CIA. What kind of advantages we have versus a law enforcement group of the secret services. Another important thing, if we are getting into the computing world deeper, regarding the Silk Road, when Ross Ulbricht, aka Dread Pirate Robert, was captured, he used a lot of drugs. Ross Ulbricht committed several mistakes that facilitated and enabled their detention. Ross was in the library. Ross Ulbricht used libraries to connect on the internet anonymously or pseudo-anonymously. How can I do an HTTP? So he published on Stackflow his PHP code, which was used as his real name, then changed to Frosty at Frosty. He made a lot of mistakes that helped us arrest him. Or the case of Sabu Lulzek, who was whistleblower for the FBI. Sabu made a lot of mistakes because he used Tor, T-O-R, to connect it to Lulzek. He used IRC to communicate on T-O-R. He sent back many things to his place, to his house. So this tells us problems we can have. Cybersecurity guys, we can make mistakes that can reveal who we are. Duku and the equation group. Everything can be falsed and falsified. All the binary compilation from Duku or the equation group can be clearly seen as somebody not working on Fridays and Saturdays. He only worked on Sundays, and with their time zone, you can determine that he was using a false black. It was attributed to the origin of this thread, the compilation of the binaries, their hours. This revealed the whole thing. So we are seeing how can this affect me, because I'm working on security, cybersecurity. How can I be careful about not revealing confidential information? There are the golden rules. Very first, we have to compartmentalize. We have to put in compartments. The mobile phone for work should be different from the private mobile phone. We need to have a work computer and a home computer differentiated. It may be not practical, depending on the degree of paranoia is important. Ciphering, encryption is important. If we encrypt things, protects us much better in our information sharing. The algorithm, the key we're using, is important for us to encrypt. Important thing, the air gap. Air gap is important as well. There is so much controversy about this, the Paris attacks. So, ciphering, encryption, methods should have a backdoor because they can help us to capture terrorists and other type of criminals. This is a moment of tension. Oh, how will this end up? But be careful about the information we are using, whether it is from clients, journalists, friends, because somebody can be interested in it. There is also a very important issue I'd like to highlight, which is QBIS 3.0. You might have used it. About the put things into compartments. We open a file, a virtual machine starts up. If we want to see the emails, a new machine opens up to decipher the emails or the files. If we say exploits on PowerPoint, we have been sent an attack. Only the virtual specific machine compromised on the area can be attacked regarding cybersecurity. So over time, operating systems will end up being compartmented areas where we can define our activities in small areas. Regarding the emails, depending on your degree of paranoia, should we not use emails? But we want to protect our information a lot because we are working in a company. We want to present an offer to our the Canal de Panama worth 2,000 million euros. We don't want to be discovered in this bidding tender offer. So this bidding tender offer should be sent on email. Perhaps it's more secure.
Metadatos, hemos visto metadatos de llamadas.
Careful with metadata regarding calls, files, anything that we do on the internet generates context information. And what I told you about PGP is also important because today PGP is recommendable, however, it is not highly usable. Actually, there is a very interesting statement by the creator of it, where he says, "Sorry, but I do not use any other. I don't use it anymore because none of my clients, I don't know anyone who uses it. So little or low usability. So it's interesting to use PGP. However, as a community, we will need to find better ways to improve it. And also, PGP does not support secrecy. Well, add-ons have been created. So as a security community, we will have to work to offer better decryption systems, so encryption systems end-to-end. So WhatsApp, it doesn't really make sense to use WhatsApp to send out sensitive information or confidential information. And there are other tools for mobile phones, that's Frigma, Pwn as a decentralized system is also very interesting, but low usability. OTR is useful as well. However, all the open source tools are based on OTR. For instance, LibPurple, which is poorly developed, has lots of flaws. And then the same as communications. Well, Tor is useful for some people. For instance, people or journalists can use Tor in those countries where they are prone to be spied on. So at the end of the day, Tor may abstract you or may link you with the VMP address you are using. So we should be very careful. We should not mix anonymity with privacy. And actually, there are tools such as Portal, which is hardware. For instance, when we travel, we just connect a Wi-Fi router so that everything, all the traffic that coming out of our computer goes through Tor. In the case of Pwn is not very usable. However, the problem of it is security. It is not highly secure. And then, for instance, if we travel, we would have, if we had lots of money, we would have to use like a disposable computer, but that is not practical at all. So depending on the place or the country where we travel, perhaps we may want to delete data before we go into that country, or delete country as we leave the country, especially if we believe that someone may have infected our BIOS. So also, there are, well, for instance, we may be prone to be attacked if we just leave our computer on at our hotel and we go for dinner. So we should carry our computer on us all the time so that it is not that easily compromised. In also social networks, sometimes we upload images on the social networks and we may be, I don't know, disclosing information, sexual information, political information, or confidential information about ourselves. Well, we have to use, important to use a strong password, robust passwords, to ensure that our information is secure. All right, let us take a look at the most secure man in the earth.
His passwords are 30 characters, with no words and no repeating characters. They change once a week, and he has never written one down. He can complete the 5-part OPSEC process in one step. He is the most secure man in the world.
I always practice OPSEC, and so should you. Stay secure, my friends.
Bueno, es un vídeo que han hecho de concienciación los militares norteamericanos.
Well, this is a video by the US military. Okay, in a humorous manner, shows the importance of everything that we have been discussing. And now I'd like to finish my presentation with giving you further information. So we may use them as guidelines that will help us protect our information so that we don't disclose more information that we should. Okay, so it also will help us protect ourselves as well as our devices. So, well, these are helpful links to you. Okay, if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them. Any questions? No questions? All right. Thank you very much for coming, for listening. I recommend any of the guides that I showed in my last slide. Thank you.